Super Bowl 58 is firmly in the books, and it is congratulations once again to the Kansas City Chiefs, lifting their third Lombardi trophy in the space of just 5 years, and in so doing establishing themselves as a modern-day dynasty in the NFL. And to Las Vegas, Nevada, you should know you did it right. You were a superb host venue for Super Bowl 58, and no doubt the big event will be coming back to Vegas at some point in the near future. For 31 other teams, though, outside of the Chiefs, planning is already well underway to try and find a way to wrestle that Vince Lombardi trophy from Kansas City's grasp next year. And to that end, free agency begins in 3 weeks' time on March the 13th. Then the last weekend in April, it's the NFL draft. Then it'll be mini camps. Then it'll be preseason training. And before we know it, September and the big kickoff will be upon us once again. We're constantly told there is no off-season in the NFL. And so to that end, over the next several weeks, we're going to take a deeper dive into 3 franchises, the Raiders, the Cowboys, and the Ravens. So what are we waiting for? Let's turn the page and take a closer look at the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, welcome along to the show. This is Graves on Gridiron. I am your host, Richard Graves. And over the course of the week spent in Vegas, not only did we have all the build-up, the colour, the excitement to the big game itself, but I took the opportunity to catch up with friends, colleagues that know a bit about several other teams in the NFL to let's see if we could lift the lid and find out what needs to be done at certain franchises with title ambitions in order to get themselves up to that level where they are competing with the Kansas City Chiefs for the Vince Lombardi trophy at Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans next February. We're going to start it this week by taking a look at the host city franchise from Super Bowl 58, the Las Vegas Raiders. Everybody concerned with the organization, delighted to be hosting the Super Bowl, extremely disappointed not to be taking part in it themselves. It has been a long time since the Raiders were last at the big dance. They've, of course, relocated. They've changed coaching staff. Head coach Antonio Pierce is now in situ on a permanent basis after impressing everybody just about in his interim role in the second half of this last season. Rob Ryan is part of his coaching staff as well. So I got to catch up with him and find out exactly what the plans are between now and the NFL draft. But before we hear from Rob Ryan, let's get a media perspective. If you like, fresh eyes, looking from the outside in. To that end, Joe Arrigo from Franchise Sports covers all things sports in Las Vegas. And whilst on Radio Row last week, I got his thoughts on what lies ahead and what needs to be done in the off-season with those Las Vegas Raiders. Let's talk Raiders then, because it's been quite a past 12 months for them. Antonio Pierce is now confirmed as the new head coach. All change again. You follow this, you live in this city, so you follow this team closer than any of us. Joe, it's a big off-season, isn't it, for the organisation?
You know, it's a big off-season, but I don't think it's an off-season that will decide whether or not he's the guy, like long-term. I think what's going to, Antonio did a great job of coming in, galvanizing the Raiders, and bringing back the Raider way. The Raider way is something that, quite frankly, it's hard to articulate, just because there's 31 teams and then there's the Raiders. But he brought back that arrogance, that toughness, the vibe that no one's gonna mess with us. Where you didn't see that with the last regime that was there. They try to put a square peg in a round hole. And I like the fact that he came in and reestablished, and he's bringing back all of the Raiders with gold jackets. They're all a part of the organization. He wants to include them in everything, and you couldn't say that with
giving
Josh
a sense
McDaniels.
of the history and heritage of the organization as well.
At the end of the last game, you had a room full of former Raiders with gold jackets. You had Richard Seymour, Charles Woodson, the list, Rod Woodson. The list goes on and on. They're all there, and they're smoking cigars, and they're enjoying him and Antonio Pierce and Champ Kelly did a real good job of including that and bringing that back. And I think these younger Raiders, they need that. They need to have that sense of what it means to be a Raider. We just had Hugh Jackson on our show, and he said the same thing.
How important was the final month of the regular season for the Raiders? I mean, we saw them go down 3-0 at home to the Vikings, but then on Christmas Day, go up to KC and turn over the ball, get the job done when they were heavily underdogs going into that game. You've spoken about Antonio Pierce's attitude that he's now bringing back to the organisation. Do you believe in momentum, the way you play in the final month of one regular season rolling over to the next?
100%. I think that that's what gave him that's what gave him the job. To be quite honest with you, he goes in there, turns you. They had a couple hiccups. The Minnesota game, and I think the Indianapolis game too. That came out. You can't coach on emotion. And I think that's what happened. He got a little emotional, but thank God for Raider fans that he brings Marvin Lewis stays on board. And there's other coaches that are older coaches that are being a part of the staff. But the thing that doesn't get talked about enough is how well Coach Graham did with that defense. I mean, that defense turned around to be a top 5 defense the minute Josh McDaniels got fired. And I find that interesting. An offensive coach with McDaniels, and then he turns around and the defense gets better when he's gone. What was really going on behind closed doors?
In terms of personnel, what are we looking at in the off-season? What are the needs for the Raiders? And specifically at quarterback, where do you see them heading?
I'm going to give you conspiracy theory.
We love a conspiracy theory.
They hired Cliff Kingsbury, or agree with Cliff Kingsbury. And I've been told, and it's been on record, that the Raiders are looking to move up for a quarterback. You could maybe surmise that Kingsbury wanted Caleb Williams, Antonio Pierce, and Jaden Daniels are really close. He's on the coaching staff at Arizona State, played against them when he was coaching Long Beach Poly in California. Jaden went to high school in San Bernardino, California. That may have been that we're going to trade, but we're going to get in there to get Jay. Well, I don't want Jay, I want Caleb. Well, then bounce, then go ahead and leave. So you could surmise that potentially. They're going to have to move up and get a quarterback. I think if any that they can't get one of the two, I think it's either Williams or Daniels. I think they're going to stay put, and I think at that point they may go try to get a veteran to help out. I don't see Justin Fields just off his relationship with Luke Getsy. Quite frankly, I'm not a big believer in Justin Fields. What I do think the Raiders have a big question is, the biggest question for them is, what are they going to do with Josh Jacobs? He's coming off a year where he was dinged up a bit, didn't play a lot, but he's a free agent. You could franchise him for the final year, but do you want to do that?
And we know the narrative around NFL running backs these days, don't we? They have 4 to 5 good years, and then statistically, with the exception of people like Adrian Peterson, their production drops and it falls off quite dramatically. So do you want to be paying big money for someone who, league-wide says they're not necessarily going to deliver on the field?
Well, they got $50 million in cap space, and they can free up another like $27 million between Jimmy G if they do something with Hunter Renfrow. So you're looking at potentially $77 million in cap space. If you're giving Josh Jacobs, let's say $12 to $18 million, that's not going to really hurt you. And it's a guy that is loved by AP. I'll give you a name if they let him walk or they decide to move on that could make some sense for him, is Saquon Barkley. I mean,
if he can stay healthy, he's still a talent. He's got very little tread on the tyres because of his injury issues, and if he can get to anything like the form that we all know he's capable of, he's a difference maker in this.
100%, and he needs to do everything backward. Jacobs is more of a ground and pound guy, wants to run between the tackles. So I see them going that direction, and then defensively, they need to get all the help that they can on the back end. Bringing in Jack Jones, was a godsend for not only Jack Jones as a person, and I've known Jack a long time, so it helped Jack out, but also for Antonio, because there's a connection there, and he believes in him, and Jack's a loyal guy. And you've seen that they substitute really Jack Jones for or Marcus Peters for Jack Jones, and the defense all of a sudden trends up. So I think you got to get outside. You got to get outside and get your corners, and you got to get another safety to play. Well, Epps and Merrick are good, but they may move on from Merrick as well. That's the other thing, because he may not fit the scheme. So that may be a safety need as well, but this is a big offseason for potentially free agent-wise for them. Yeah,
and when you have the Super Bowl in town as well, we've already experienced on opening night that fantastic brand new stadium facilities there. You wouldn't be human if people that were fans of the Raiders and part of the Raiders organization didn't look around and say, we want a bit of this.
They're livid. They're livid that it's Kansas City and San Francisco. The two teams the Raider Nation hates the most are playing in their stadium. One is using their facility and is in their locker room. They are not happy about it. And you ask anybody that's from Raider Nation, they want to see the game just and in a tie. And in a 0-0 tie. And your brother needs to be in the Hall of Fame. I hope so. I had to say that to Shannon Sharp.
There you go. You see, just another celebrity just walking by.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're going to want a piece of it and want a piece of it soon, aren't they?
Absolutely, and they do. Like, this is something I think 2 years ago they really wanted. Okay, 2 years from now, we should be there, and they really believe that. And look, people can say what they want about Mark Davis. Mark Davis, they talk about his haircut, or he's an owner that doesn't have a lot of money. Mark Davis is making money hand over foot in Las Vegas. You see how the city is. Mark is smart. What Mark has done is he recognized that he lost the team with McDaniels and got rid of him. He cut bait. He's paying $20 million to Gruden and McDaniels the next 4 years. So it's not like he doesn't have the money. He realizes, I got to bring in smarter people. Raider Nation.
The upside to that, of course, is that people talk about salary cap. When it comes to coaching staff, salary cap is irrelevant.
It is. And then you have the fact that they bring in Tom Telesco. Now, you can say what you want about Telesco in terms of the money spent with certain members of Chargers, but his drafts, like Derwin James, Justin Herbert. I mean, you look at the drafts that he's put together. He's put together some damn good drafts. So if the Raiders are able to put those types of drafts together under him, working with AP and having, Champ Kelly's a great talent value. He should be a GM. Probably should have got the job with the Panthers.
And there's a really valid argument as well when you look at that roster that he put together over in LA with the Chargers, that they have underachieved by some margin
100%.
Over the last few years. Speaking of the Chargers and the AFC West, you look at this division now, and obviously Sean Payton up at Denver's hoping that year 2 is going to be a lot better than year 1. It remains to be seen what happens there this off season. The Chiefs here, obviously in Vegas at another Super Bowl. The Chargers now have a new head coach with a proven track record of winning. This is going to be a competitive division, isn't it?
It is. I say the Broncos are the worst team in the division, and I question even head coaching wise. Sean Payton gets a lot of credit, but he won 1 Super Bowl with Drew Brees. Now that's Mike McCarthy. He gets reamed for when he won with Aaron Rodgers. Why isn't there that same type of, and then the way he handled Russell Wilson. Now you can say what you want about Russell Wilson, maybe going Hollywood or whatever. He still handled it handled it wrong. Sean Payton's a prickly personality, and I question whether or not he's getting paid, but I think the Broncos paid too much for him, to be honest with you. You look at Harbaugh going to the Chargers. Look, he's going to win. But I question Greg Roman as offense coordinator. They're just going to try to run the ball. Well, you've got weapons on the outside. You have a quarterback that's got one of the best arms in the NFL that really is a dude. Are you going to limit him to just running the ball? Yeah. So there's that question there, and then there's the injuries, and they're like $70 million over the cap. So who do they get rid of Khalil Mack? Are they going to, Derwin James, they sign him to a big deal. They're going to keep him. There's a lot of question marks with that team. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams is good as gone. So there's the questions there. I mean, then we go to the Chiefs. They're the big bad Chiefs. But I believe Chris Jones is a free agent at the end of the year.
He is indeed, yeah. It's only a 1-year deal he signed this year.
Is Chris Jones' last hurrah there? And he's a cog on that defense that you don't want to lose. Well, down here in the silver and black, they could use someone like that. And I guarantee, and he's Antonio Pierce's type of guy. He's Mark Davis's type of guy, the way he plays. So the Raiders could be in a really good position really quick because the team has bought in completely Antonio Pierce. And when you got your leaders, when you got Max Crosby and Devontae Adams really banging the table and saying, this is our guy, Mark Davis, again, goes back to Mark listening and understanding, I know what I know and I know what I don't know. I'm not going to outthink the room. This is it. I'm going to make that move. The AFC West is going to be very intriguing the rest of going into next year.
Potentially a very exciting offseason for Raider Nation.
Absolutely.
Joe, love your time. Thanks very much. I know you've got your own commitments as well, but thanks for stopping by on Graves on Gridiron.
Anything for you, man. It's good to see you in person. I love it.
It's better than being 5,000 miles apart, is it not?
Yes, I got to come across the pond and hang out with you guys, though.
Anytime. Just give us a call. Let us know. We'll be there.
Absolutely.
My thanks to Joe Arrigo, VP of Franchise Sports Media, based out there in Las Vegas, for his perspective on the Raiders off-season and what lies ahead from them. Also, whilst I was on Radio Row last week, we saw a familiar face. You may have heard this interview in the build-up to Super Bowl 58, but I thought it was worth playing it back in because he is integral. He is on the inside of the Raiders and everything they plan to do this off-season. He is a senior defensive assistant coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, speaks very highly of new head coach Antonio Pierce. It's a good friend and well-respected coach in the NFL, Rob Ryan. Great to catch up with him. Here's what he had to say about the off-season that lies ahead. Well, Rob, they say you can meet anybody on Super Bowl week on Radio Row, and there I was minding my own business, looked up, and I thought, I recognise that face. It's good to see you. How are you doing?
It's great seeing you. It's been a few years.
Has been a while. There's been a little pandemic in between, which disrupted things.
Yeah.
Changes of jobs as well.
Yeah, I think it might have been the Super Bowl the last time the Niners played the Chiefs.
Yeah,
or in Miami. Yep. And I went deaf in that game and still never recovered in my right ear. It's never come back. So I got that as a lasting impression of that time, but great to see you.
Yeah, likewise. You're now working with the Raiders organization.
Right.
It's been a period of change over the last couple of months. Antonio Pierce now confirmed in situ as the permanent head coach. And from everybody I speak to around here that's involved with the organization, it's unmistakable. There's an upbeat feel, positivity about it.
Oh yeah, he's great. I mean, coaching together with him on defense, and then when he was promoted to the head coach, an interim coach, he did a tremendous job, and our defense really responded. We were number one in the league, the entire league since he took over. So we got our identity from him, and he's a great man. He's himself. I love him. There's nobody like him. And look, he was a short, undersized linebacker. They had all those Hall of Famers around him with the Giants, but he was the captain. Yeah. This guy is a leader. He's a leader of men, and he's from Compton, the tough streets out there. You can't get any tougher than Antonio Pierce, and he gave our team an identity, and we're going to have that going forward.
And that's what Raider Nation has been crying out for years now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, these are genuine articles. So, you used to play games here in Vegas, and we never had a home field advantage. Well, that all changed when AP came. All of a sudden, fans are showing up. It looked, it's a home field advantage now, and we beat the teams in our conference. The last 3 times we played them, beat every one of them. So they know what they got to look forward to with us going forward.
And Raiders fans will love hearing that, because that hasn't necessarily been the attitude over the last few years. And you look at that AFC West going into next season now. Obviously the Chargers have got Coach Harbaugh in charge. Sean Payton is hoping to turn things around in Denver, and you've got these Chiefs back in the Super Bowl again. It's going to be a heck of a division, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's going to be great. And but you got 3 great coaches. Well, we also got Antonio Pierce, who's a great coach. So 4 great head coaches, 4 great teams, and it's going to be a great division for sure, and we're looking forward to it. Our players are really excited about going forward under AP, and they worked their tails off to make it happen, and we're not going to let him down, that's for sure.
What can we expect from the Raiders in the off-season then, and looking ahead to 2024?
Well, I mean, Tom Telesco is our GM. I mean, he's one of the best in the business, and then getting AP, we had several new coaches come, so we have to get everybody up to speed on that, and we have a new offense coordinator, Luke Getsy, so a lot to look forward to in Raider Nation, and then of course you got the upcoming draft. We're going to add some good players, so we're excited about in free agency, so it's a never-ending deal, you know that.
Great seeing you.
Great seeing
Fantastic to have you on the show. All the best for the future, and we'll certainly stay in touch and watch with interest.
All right, my friend. Good luck with the new endeavor.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I have to say, Rob Ryan is one of the best individuals I know in football. Fantastic to bump into him on Radio Row whilst we're out there in Las Vegas. Even better that he could spare some time in his busy schedule to sit down with us here on Graves on Gridiron and chew over the fat, break down what the off-season holds in store for Raider Nation and this Las Vegas Raiders franchise. What is unmistakable is the sense of positivity about the Raiders going into this off-season. There's a stability about the organization now, and certainly there's plenty of excitement regarding what lies ahead. I hope, Raider Nation, you've enjoyed this deeper dive into your team, and it's shone a little bit more light onto what the off-season holds. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll be taking a closer look at the Baltimore Ravens, the team from the AFC that perhaps thought they were going to be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. Remember, they were the number 1 seeded team in that conference, but fell at the final hurdle to the eventual winners, the Kansas City Chiefs. And we'll also be taking a deeper dive into the organization that divides opinion, not just across America, but across NFL fans around the globe. The team nicknamed America's Team, the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be having a chat with people from the Dallas-Fort Worth area that know an awful lot more about what's going on and what lies ahead for them in the off season. Don't forget, as always, plenty of content on my YouTube channel at Richard Graves TV, on Facebook, Graves on Gridiron. Equally, if you just want to get in touch and exchange a few thoughts and comments, on X at Richard Graves1, Instagram, RDG Media UK. All that's still to come in the next few weeks before we open the free agency window and the start of the new NFL calendar year. But for now, it's so long, everybody.